Hi, Michael. How are you? Nice to have you with us. Can you tell us a little bit about the new climate wars and why it's important right now for people to understand the kind of tactics that are being used?
Yeah, thanks, Blair. It's good to be with you. And, we are so close now to finally seeing the action we've worked so hard for when it comes to the climate crisis. And so the reason I wrote this book, The New Climate War, was to make people aware of the obstacles that still remain. The old climate war, as it were, efforts to undermine the public understanding of the basic scientific evidence for climate change. That is largely over because people can see the impacts of climate change playing out in real time in their own lives. And so it's no longer possible for the fossil fuel interests and those doing their bidding to deny the reality of climate change, but they've instead turned to an array of more insidious tactics in their effort to either stop or at least slow the necessary transition off fossil fuels towards renewable energy. And that consists of efforts to divide climate advocates, to deflect attention away from the need for systemic changes for policy to individual behavior, as if it's just about you and me solving the problem on our own, or proposing false solutions. Like geoengineering, interfering with the Earth system in some other massive way in a desperate effort to somehow offset the warming effect of carbon pollution. The principle of unintended consequences really reigns supreme when we start looking at some of those potential schemes. And so the real purpose of the book is to make us aware that there still is this challenge. There still is a war being fought by fossil fuel interests and those promoting their agenda. But it's no longer simply about discrediting the reality of climate change. It's instead about preventing us from acting on the climate crisis.
Right. And if you were, say, an investor or someone interested in how things are going in the economic side of this, um, does the book help understand how to kind of determine what good and real solutions are versus the kind of, as you say, kind of the spin for maybe technologies that are never going to happen or going to be very difficult and are not maybe the easiest or quickest things that we could do right now?
Yeah, indeed, I do weigh in on these matters in the book. Look, we don't need a miracle, Bill Gates. Bill Gates has told us we somehow need a miracle to solve this problem. We don't. We have the technology. We can get to where we need to go. 80% of projected energy demand by 2030, 100% by 2050 on renewables alone. So the solution is in our hands. It is just a matter of policies that incentivize that solution and the market buying into those policies and investing in clean energy and renewable energy. That's the path forward. It's the way to grow the economy. It's the way to help live sustainably on this planet. And we have the solution in our hands. No need for any miracles or new technology. Let's solve this problem with the technology we have now, recognizing that there will be innovations and there will be new economies of scale as we deploy renewable energy technology. But let's start now, because we don't have 10 years to solve this problem. We've got to reduce our carbon emissions globally by a factor of 2 within the next 10 years. And we can get started down that road with the renewable energy solutions we have now.
Fantastic. Michael, what do you think are kind of the biggest sort of lies and tactics being used right now by the fossil fuel industry to keep people from understanding how fast we need to move and understanding that it can be done and we need to get to it and make it happen?
Yeah, there are all sorts of methods of manipulation by the forces of inaction, the inactivists, as I call them in the book, the fossil fuel companies and the organizations and front groups and individuals who are promoting their agenda. We hear, for example, that the solution is just in us going vegan and not flying anymore. Well, sure, there are things we can do in our everyday lives that decrease our environmental footprint, and we should do all those things. But that isn't going to give us the reductions that we need. We need policies. We need a price on carbon. We need subsidies for renewable energy. We need to stop building new fossil fuel infrastructure. These are things that you and I can't do ourselves. We need our policymakers to do that. So this idea that it's individual behavior alone as the solution to the problem is a way to take the pressure off of polluters and politicians who need to act on our behalf rather than on their behalf. This idea that it'll cost too much to act on the climate crisis. Just the opposite is true. The cost of inaction we are witnessing now in the form of unprecedented extreme weather events that are destroying our infrastructure, that are leading to tremendous loss of life and property. It's too expensive not to act. So we have to get away from this fallacy that, that it's going to be too expensive to do something about the problem. What's going to be too expensive is to not do something about the problem now while we still can. And then finally, this idea that it's too late to act. Ironically, there are people of goodwill and good intentions who would be on the front lines demanding action, but they've been led to believe that it's too late to do anything about the problem. And whether you deny climate change is real, or you've been misled into thinking it's too late to act, it potentially leads to disengagement. And that's what the polluters want. They don't care why you're disengaged. They just want you disengaged. So let's recognize these fallacies. Let's recognize these sort of false paths forward, because the real path is right in front of us. It's just a matter of us walking down it.
Fantastic. The new climate war is a great way for people to understand all of these kind of concepts, and I think maybe help them learn to think about approaching the issue, maybe if they're either new to it or they're coming at it trying to discern, what's good, what are solutions that work, how fast things are changing, where action is. So highly recommended, and hopefully we'll have a chance to make sure those participating can get a copy and read up and find out more. So thanks, Michael, for your expertise. You've been at this for how many decades now?
More than two anyways.
Exactly. And, to have your expertise for us in this audience is really fantastic. So I really highly recommend the book and the session with you, so that we can have a chance to kind of draw out some of these things so people can understand a lot better what it means for them in their investing minds, in their everyday lives, and how to really face this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blair, both for the kind words and for all that you do.
Thank you.
Please visit sparknetwork.com for your complimentary registration.